Hello, my name is Selena Sardathian, and welcome to my reading recap. Spoiler warning now for any and all of these books. If you hear a title you haven't read yet and don't want spoiled, skip ahead or click away. Any trigger warnings I think of, I'll leave in a comment below. Number 1, Dungeon Crawler Carl, Book 1, by Matt Denneman. I gave 4 out of 5. Carl and his ex recently went through a breakup, and he's stuck with her cat, Donut, at first. He kind of wants to get rid of her, but deep down he loves the kitty, so he keeps Princess Donut. They quickly get sucked into a video game that's like an apocalyptic game show where they're dungeon crawlers and have to make their way up levels to get out while slaying creatures and getting loot. Princess Donut is deemed more than just a pet and gets a dungeon crawler title, as well as the ability to speak. This is a really fun series, and I'm excited to read further. They come across 2 goblins that they call Lorelei and Rory, and later Donut gets chatting about Gossip Girl. It's nice to have an adult novel with references that I get and are fun for me. This ends with them about to ascend to level 3. Number 2, The Assassin and the Pirate Lord by Sarah J. Maas. I gave 4 out of 5. Selena Sardathian, Breaker of Chains. This is part of the prequel to the Throne of Glass series. I've heard of this a lot, but was told it was porn so much that I avoided it. But a friend assured me that it's not, and this one definitely isn't. Thank goodness. So I'm in for now. These short stories are also packaged together into one book, The Assassin's Blade, but I'm going to rate these stories separately. Selena is sent with Sam to see a pirate for something. Once they arrive, they find out that they were sent to pick up slaves. She makes a plan to set them free and manages to save 200, but then gets caught in the process. She fights her way free and hugs her companion Sam, despite her generally being so cold. Selena generally stays masked, but in private, Sam sees her face. Number 3, The Assassin and the Healer by Sarah J. Maas. I gave 4.5 out of 5. Here, Selena wanders to a bar and saves the barmaid from would-be thieves. The barmaid thanks her by binding her wounds, and in doing so, sees her face is covered in marks from being beaten from her master after freeing the slaves. It's also clear that she doesn't know of Sam's whereabouts. Selena learns of this woman's aspirations and how she learned to be a healer from her mother and is only stuck in this shithole town due to lack of funds. Selena spends hours training her to fight until the previous thieves' friends come looking for trouble and the girls take them on. Selena slips away, leaving a note telling the girl to move on from this town, and she leaves her with more money than she needs. Number 4, The Assassin and the Desert by Sarah J. Maas. I gave 4.5 out of 5. Selena is staying in town where she befriends a girl named Ansel, who holds a lot of trauma after watching her family get murdered. The pair bond a bit while taking care of horses and dancing. While dancing, Selena gets her feelings all stirred up when a guy almost kisses her, but she pulls away since she's never been kissed before and now wasn't the time. The next morning, Ansel comes in and snaps at Selena. Ansel has been hooking up with people for training advantages, and somehow that's Selena's fault. Ansel drugs Selena and leaves her in the desert, telling her to go home and lying, saying her employer had sent her away with a letter of recommendation. Selena senses that something's up, finds out the letter was fake, and goes to find Ansel, who's about to murder their employer and his son, the guy Selena nearly kissed. She stops her, spares her life, and tells her to leave. The man thanks her by giving her a real letter of recommendation and says she's welcome to make there her home anytime. Number 5, The Assassin and the Underworld by Sarah J. Maas. I gave 4.5 out of 5. Selena returns to her master and pays her debt, but tells him that she still wants to work for him. She's hired to retrieve slave documents for another slave operation. She runs into Sam, and things are awkward at first, but then she has him help her. Selena is bothered by the fact that he spent time with another girl that summer, but it wasn't as more than friends. It was hardly even as friends. Their master had asked him to. Sam doubts Selena has any feelings for him, so he threatens to leave, but she stops him, tells him she loves him, and kisses him. Her first kiss. Good on her for waiting for the right moment. Selena kills the man with the documents and pays off Sam's debts to their master. He tells Selena that she didn't stop any slave trading. They had tricked her into killing a man who was trying to stop slavery. He added that he used the money she gave him for her debts to buy the virginity of the girl Sam had spent his summer with. So now all of that money she worked hard for went to her. A burn for sure, but she took it and went home to her apartment where Sam told her he never wanted them to be apart ever again. Number 6, The Assassin and the Empire by Sarah J. Maas. I gave 4.5 out of 5. Sam is sneaking around doing a fight club type thing to earn money since Selena's is running out and she likes a lavish lifestyle. That part of her character doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if it's the I slay people by day and just slay by night thing or what, but I'm thrown off whenever it's mentioned that she likes such nice material things. Selena hates him fighting for money, and they agree that they'll do one more assassin job, then take the money, leave the guild, and leave the continent. They ask their former master for a job, and he demands every last cent of hers for them to safely leave the guild. She agrees against Sam's will, and it's a plan. Later, she's told Sam's been murdered, and she demands to see the body, which she does. The old master, his name is Arabin, he gets her arrested and charged for every murder he made and had her do. How fucked up is that? Where she goes, she's sentenced to 9 lifetimes working the salt mines. And that's the end of the stories from The Assassin's Blade. Number 7, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I gave 4 out of 5. Selena has worked a year of her sentence in the salt mine when Prince Dorian snags her up to be his champion. The king needs a new champion, and a bunch of people gather to fight for the position. While there, she takes on a new identity as Lillian as not to tip off the other competitors of how much of a threat she is. She's constantly guarded since she's technically still prisoner, and befriends the captain of the guard, Kale. During her stay, he's very professional and stiff at first, but softens up to her over time. While there, she also befriends Prince Dorian, although he is portrayed as a fuckboy. The prince seems to get Selena to warm up while she gets Kale to warm up. She also befriends Princess Nahima as soon as the princess arrives. The two bond, and Selena teaches the princess to fight and read and write in the castle's language, which she later finds out she didn't even really need anyway. Queen Elena comes to Selena in her dreams asking her to fight a darkness in the castle. Champions start mysteriously dying, and Selena tries to solve the mystery. She starts to get suspicious of the princess and randomly starts regularly kissing Dorian. The two have no chemistry at all, and she's always more pleasant with Kale. I did listen to the audiobook, and the reader puts on a pompous voice for the prince, but I swear they have no chemistry regardless of the voice. She seems clearly more into Kale than Dorian. A fellow champion named Kane tries killing Selena, and she realizes that he's been killing the other champions to steal their strength. He's the darkness in the castle. She gets paired up with him for the final battle in the champion tests, and he has her drugged so she's hallucinating while trying to fight him. She manages to win, and the princess helps. Kale kills Kane afterwards for hurting Selena. Selena is granted 4 years of working for the king instead of the rest of her original salt mine sentence, and Kale is off the hook for killing Kane. Selena dumps Dorian randomly, but also, thank God, they have no chemistry. And that's where we're left off. At some point in the book, Dorian shows Selena puppies and is like, oh, we're gonna kill these ones because they're not purebreds. Okay, Voldemort. She begs him not to, and later he gives her the one that she was so concerned about and names her Fleetfoot. Number 8, Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I gave 4.5 out of 5. Selena is now working as the king's assassin, but she's secretly freeing his marks and bringing him fake remains. She finds a passageway in her room at the castle and speaks with the dead queen, Elena, who wants her help. One of her marks from the king is a man named Archer, who she previously knew. She gives him a month to gather information about rebels for her before she fakes his death and makes him flee. And if he tries to run, she'll kill him. She gets much closer to Nahima, who demands her help with the rebels and in making a better world. Selena also gets closer to Kale, and they fall for each other, her giving her virginity to him. One night, Kale disappears, and there's a note for her to come have a chat, but she arrives with a bloodlust and kills a bunch of people waiting, rebels who have chained up Kale. She's demanding his release when Archer, who is working for them, says that Nahima will be dead and that Kale knew there was danger coming to her and didn't tell Selena. The love in her eyes towards him turned to hatred, and she tries to kill him, but is stopped by an invisible force that she later finds out was Dorian and his secret magic that he's just now realizing he has. She ran to Nehema, but found her and her guards slaughtered. She hunts down the people involved and brings the king a severed head. She starts spending time with Dorian again to not be alone, just platonically, and he's okay with that. Celaena finds out that Archer killed Nehema and goes after him, but he says Nehema wouldn't have wanted that, so she offers him freedom one more time. He thanks her and smiles too snarkily, and she kills him anyway. She opens up a portal to another world so she can speak with Nehema, but it lets out horrible beasts. Dorian finds her, and later Chaol does too. They all work together to seal the doors shut and keep the creatures at bay. Chaol has been clueless to their magic before, but once he found out Celaena is part Fae, he has sent her away thinking it'll keep her safe. She has Dorian watch after Fleetfoot and tells Chaol a date and says that she has to and will return by then. He goes to her room and searches through books until he finds the date, and it gives him answers. Her real name is Aelin Galathynius, princess and heir to the throne of Terrasen. She holds the power to take down the king, and he sent her to Wendell, land of the Fae, where she holds the most allies and can become the most powerful. Number 9, Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. I gave 4 out of 5. I almost hated this one, but ended up liking the second half. Everyone's split up, and there's new characters, giving it a Game of Thrones complexity that I am not a fan of. Celaena is in Wendelin, just wasting away drinking and gambling. A guy named Rowan finds her and takes her to her Aunt Maeve. Celaena has questions about the word keys, which hold power that can control everything, and Maeve says she'll give her answers only if she harnesses her magic. Celaena is sent off to endure brutal training with Rowan, who at first I thought was going to be an enemy to lover situation, but thank goodness it was not, kind of, at first. He is so horrible towards her over the first half of the book. He doesn't take the time to learn what she's been through or what she needs. I was hoping he'd die for so long. Eventually, he learns that she was kept with slaves and tortured most of her life, and he becomes kinder. A threat comes to Wendelin, and the pair fight and defeat it. They both have creature-animal forms they transform into. Celaena also harnesses a power of fire, hence the title of the book, and Rowan can control the air. Meanwhile, back in Adarlan, Chaol's father shows up and agrees to leave his position in the guard and to return home with him. Aedion, Celaena's cousin, that was basically a brother to her, shows up. Chaol tells him that she's still alive and that she says she'll return. They work together with Ren and Murtagh and find out about the threat the king had sent to Wendelin. They also think they've figured out how to get magic back in Adarlan. A healer, Saoirse, finds out about Dorian's magic and helps him practice and learn to harness his skill and control his magic. The two fall in love, and it's quite cute. Once Celaena returns to Maeve, she's only told that the word keys cannot be destroyed. They can only be put back into word gates, but she doesn't know how to do that. Celaena's realized the third key is with her former master. She had been wearing it when he had first found her in the river. Maeve has Rowan tortured to find out more of the third key, but Celaena uses her magic to threaten her entire land and people if she doesn't stop and free Rowan. He's been a slave to her for hundreds of years, by the way. Maeve frees him, and he immediately turns and binds himself to Celaena, despite her reluctance. She then just leaves him there and takes off to Adarlan to get closure with Chaol and find Arobynn for the key. She says she'll send for him later and fucks right on off. Nice. The king hears news of Celaena not only having magic, but destroying the threat he sent. He summons Chaol, Aedion, Dorian, and Saoirse, accusing someone of being a spy. Aedion tries to take the rap for it, but just gets imprisoned. Saoirse admits to it. She's been sending letters to a friend. Despite the betrayal, Dorian pleads for her freedom, offers anything to his father for it. She tells Dorian she truly loved him, and the king tells him no, and has her head sliced off right in front of Dorian as he screams. Chaol is about to attack when Dorian uses his magic and yells for him to run, which he does after grabbing Fleetfoot. He tells the door knocker to tell Celaena where he went if she shows up. Later, he makes it to Ren, who I think is the friend Saoirse was communicating with. There were a lot of new characters that I'm not even including here because I don't get the purpose of them yet, so their storylines were hard for me to follow. Ren says he will free Adian. I don't get why this series of hers is considered young adult when there's a lot of murder and it's very intense, but her other series are considered adult fiction because they're full of porn, which I unfortunately find out later. But how is this young adult? I don't understand. Number 10, 1,000 Broken Pieces by Tilly Cole. I gave 3 out of 5. I kind of like this one. It's a bit too neat and polished for me. I prefer getting lost in fiction to the point that it feels real, but this felt pretend. When I picked up this book, I saw it was book 2 of a series, but I read the synopsis of each one and saw that the names were different, so I thought they were unrelated. Turns out they were pretty related. I finished this one, so I kinda get the gist of the first one, but I'll still do the audiobook from the library when it becomes available. I'm not sure if I enjoy this author. You know the perfection in the Hallmark universe? Everything is neat and tidy, and oh no, a little whoopsie, but no worries, everything's magically okay in the end. That's what this is, and given the context, I don't think it should be that soft. This book is much like one of my favorites, Impulse by Ellen Hopkins. It's been well over a decade since I've read that, so my memory is a bit foggy, but it was a group of suicidal people. I think they were in a treatment of some sorts, and spoiler alert, but one offs himself in the end. Or I think he does. I should reread that. This here is the Hallmarkification of Impulse. A group of teens, or kind of teens. The main guy is 18, which is technically a teen, but I feel like he'd be in a separate group. I know when I was 18, I tried to go to a teen summer camp and wasn't allowed despite being a teen technically. There's a group of 6 teens that are grieving, a gay guy who's in the closet and lost his lover, a guy who is the solo survivor of a school shooting, 2 girls that I don't remember their stories, and our leads, Kale, who saw his brother commit suicide, and Savannah, whose sister died after a several-year battle with cancer. The group are traveling the world on a special trip for grieving souls with 2 counselors. They travel places to see that the world is much bigger than their grief. Grief often stays the same size. Your world around it just grows until you feel it less. In each country, they face their grief and learn more of how other cultures grieve. It's actually a cool concept. Savannah's quiet and Kale's angry. Throughout the journey, they both start softening up to each other. Slowly, they start holding hands to comfort each other and opening up about their loss. They have 50 almost kisses before they finally get their real one in. The counselors pull them aside and tell them they need to make sure they're healing on their own and not using each other as crutches. A few years back, I was telling a friend this. He had just gotten sober from a near-decade-long drug binge, and he was trying to get with a girl who had just had a failed suicide attempt, maybe 2 months out of each incident. I told him both situations needed a year to breathe for the two to become whole on their own again, and that they should build a friendship first without complicating things. She was on board and he wasn't, so he left the friendship and found another girl to be his crutch and be in a relationship with. She seems to be more herself than he is these days, which is unfortunate, but hopefully his choice works out in the end. There's no exact time frame for healing. Everyone's different, but it's just sad to see a piece of my friend gone. My other friend was able to grow more into herself, still her, but much brighter. He managed to stay sober, but not as himself. The person he had gone to was recovering as well, and he seemed to jump on her path of healing instead of his own. I hope they end up okay. I think that time alone to heal is really important. This book has the counselors make that comment, and then the couple are still inseparable and end up happy. It supports having a crutch. I wish they were just friends until they both healed and then they got together. That's one thing that bothered me. Another was that they lost their virginities to each other on the trip. And there's a lot of verbiage in that scene that I did not like, but mostly, why can't teen love stories just be teenage love? Why can't it be innocent and sex-free? It didn't add anything to the story. It felt unnecessary and way too fast. I can't tell how long the trip is, but still. Savannah's made a lot of progress, but Kale is still struggling. He's doing pretty well in understanding that depression is like cancer and that his brother didn't choose to leave him. He was sick. He just couldn't get over the image of seeing it. At their last stop and the last assignment in Japan, they were all taking turns going into a phone booth to say goodbye to their loved ones. Everyone does it and has breakthroughs. That's another annoying thing about this book. Every trick and lesson happens to fit everyone in the group and work for everyone perfectly except this last one for Kale. In reality, a lot of therapies don't work for people. The likelihood that everyone in this group would all benefit from the exact same treatment is insane. The leaders of the group have already gotten Kale to agree to getting some extra therapies when he returns home. He's fully on board for that, but during this phone exercise, he breaks down crying. The male leader, Leo, helps Kale back to his hotel room. Savannah follows and is holding him for a bit as he sobs. The female leader came in and told Savannah to leave with her. She refuses at first, but leaves when Kale says it's okay. Once she's gone, Leo tells Kale to pack his shit and leave right then. No goodbye to Savannah or his new friends. No return trip as part of the group, which I think was happening the next day. He could have left with everyone else, but Leo said no. I want to traumatize you more. I would be livid. I would kill bitches. I don't know in what universe you think this is beneficial to anyone's mental health, but this is where the book completely lost me. They say it's because if he said goodbye or left with everyone else tomorrow, they don't think he would have gotten the extra help? What? He already agreed, and Savannah fully supported and encouraged it. Ripping him away from the last day of the group is traumatizing to Savannah and his new friends too, not to mention himself. They just overcame so much grief and loss, and they think it's a good idea to rip away their new friend? Fuck this part. It's traumatizing. Kale rushes home, sort of, goes directly into an inpatient program for a few weeks, and then meets up with Savannah in the fall for the beginning of school, where they now both attend Harvard. Suddenly now, everything's fine, and tra-la-la, they can be happy together. But what the fuck? Why did they rip them apart like that? If I was in that bad of a place, that is what would have broke me. I can't forgive that part of the book, even though I do agree that they should have been just friends until they healed. They didn't need to betray their trust like that, and lying to them to rip him away. I'm so mad at that. They end up together, of course. It flashes forward 8 years, and they return to London, where their journey started together, and he proposes. We're told they get together with the other 4 of the group as well. The 2 other guys are in love, and 2 girls have guys they love on their own. One is also pregnant, and everyone's happy, sunshine and rainbows, which is great. Woohoo! But I wish it had shown that some people don't recover. Everyone certainly can recover, but it's important to show that some people just don't. Or at least give one of them a mediocre future. They're all too happy, and that makes this feel too fake for me. Although I do find it way too happy, it did make me cry a few times. Oh God, the language they use. Savannah was always interrupting Kale with therapy speech, and it annoyed the hell out of me. People shouldn't talk like that. It doesn't sound natural. And when the group would get lessons, it felt like us, as the reader, was being spoon-fed the information. In one scene, they're brought to an empty room with their plates, and everyone's like, I don't understand. Why are we here? Obviously, you're there to break some plates. Then they're told to break them, and everyone is like, why are we breaking them? And it just goes on and on and on like that, and they're so confused about the lesson. But it's such a direct line to why they're on the trip that it's so stupid that no one understands it. They're grieving right now. They're broken. Your plate is broken. You will go into the art room and piece the plates back together just like you're doing on this trip right now. The plate won't be the same, but it will still be a plate, and it has a special beauty to it now. I felt like I was watching Sesame Street during that part. With a different author, I might have loved this. Or if the author had a different story, I just didn't love this author and story combo. I mildly enjoyed it though. I'd avoid the audiobook. Kale's voice has a heavy Brooklyn accent that sounds a little southern, like Savannah's at times, but also like a 55-year-old smoker. I couldn't do it and switched to physically reading it. His character description is also quite confusing. I can't tell if he's cute or not. He has curls she runs her hands in, so I picture that Timothée Chalamet hair, and he has facial piercings and is fully covered in tattoos, so I picture a soft little emo boy from 2006. But for one, he's 18, his brother died, and in his grief, Cale magically has thousands of dollars to fully cover himself in tattoos. And two, he's so angry and athletic, and Savannah mentions his biceps a couple of times, so I'm picturing that asshole in Divergent. But then he's also crying almost the entire book, which is great. I love when men cry. We all have feelings, but I can't picture a big, muscular, sporty guy also being the soft, cute, emo guy, so I had zero picture of him in my head, which made the universe really hard for me to imagine. Also, Savannah's sister is just buried under a tree. You can't just bury people anywhere you want. That's highly illegal. Maybe I misunderstood that, but it sounded like it was just a tree that her sister had liked. Maybe even in their yard, and she was just buried there, and later her partner also died and was laid beside her. If you've also read this book, please tell me your thoughts on it. That's it for now. Instead of monthly, I'm going to do these in groups of 10 for a while, since I'm finding a lot more to say recently. Ta-ta for now.